Hi. It's your girl, Ashley, aka ThaWidow, and today we are going to be talking about episode 3 of season 6 of Better Call Saul. But first, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below. How did you feel about episode 3? I know it's been a while since we've talked about this, but episode 3 is, kind of like a love letter to Nacho. In sending that character off. You heard me talk about in my episode 2 review and my episode 1 recap and review discussion that I really wanted Nacho to be able to escape. But as the events that we see fall out in episode 1 and then episode 2, it's becoming even more likely that Nacho is not going to escape this. And of course, Nacho is absolutely not able to do so. We see in the events of episode 2, we see him still trying to escape, him going to the safe house, discovering that Gustavo has a man following him. And it's Gustavo's plan all along to turn Nacho over to the Salamancas. Before we get into all that, I wanted to kind of go over just a little bit of what Nacho has went through over his course of the 6 seasons of Better Call Saul. And we know ever since he caused Hector Salamanca's heart attack in Better Call Saul season 3, Nacho has been desperately, obviously, just trying to escape the inevitable. He was spying for Gustavo. And then finally we see the results of that. But in season 1, we were introduced to Nacho after Jimmy failed to attempt to blackmail the Kettlemans. And it goes horribly wrong. Nacho is working for Tuco, and at this time he meets Jimmy after he encounters Tuco's mother, because Jimmy had set up this whole ruse with these con artist twins, and they were going to lay down in front of this Kettleman's car to make it seem like they hit this person, to try to blackmail them so that they would hire Jimmy to be their lawyer. But unfortunately, the wrong person actually, they come across the wrong person. It's Tuco's mother. And Tuco's mother, is protected by the cartel. Tuco then goes and, takes Saul and these guys to the desert. Saul talks Tuco out of killing the twins, but he does break their legs. But once Jimmy kind of, talks to Nacho and he informs him, who he was trying to set up and that the Kettlemans had embezzled $1.6 million, not billion, $1 million, Nacho decides that he is going to rip off the Kettlemans. Jimmy then makes a decision to, alert the Kettlemans. And then, within the days following, the Kettlemans are missing. No one can find them. Jimmy believes that, Nacho has kidnapped them. And, a neighbor actually had seen Nacho casing out their home. So he calls the police, identifies him, and Nacho is then arrested for the disappearance of the Kettlemans. And then we find out, here, he calls Jimmy in to be his lawyer, and he threatens Jimmy. He's like, if you don't get me off for this, I will have you killed. And the Kettlemans are found alive. They try to fake their own death after, a lot of work of Jimmy discovering them and their location. And then Nacho is released. Nacho then also starts up this relationship with this IT specialist who works for this pharmaceutical company. And Mike is also involved because he is, and that guy's name is Daniel Wormald. I can't remember his name, what it is. It's Warm something. He meets with Daniel. Daniel, has Mike as his bodyguard, and he's selling these pills from his employer on the side to Nacho. And Nacho's boss, Tuco, or any of the Salamancas to have a clue that he's doing this. This is like a side venture. So Nacho is kind of like, playing fast and loose a little bit because he's trying to do side deals, which is not, accepted in the drug cartel at all. And then in season 2, Better Call Saul, Nacho is continuing his business with the IT specialist. And Daniel, who is extremely, naive, about the criminal world and how things operates, Nacho takes advantage of this. Daniel had bought this souped up Hummer, that was very flashy and that could draw attention to this drug lifestyle that he was living. Mike refuses to get in that vehicle. And Mike was, like I said, was his bodyguard, right? And so Mike doesn't escort Daniel to meet Nacho. And when Daniel's not looking, Nacho looks into his glove box, finds his address. He then goes to his address and steals sends $10,000, his baseball cards, destroys his home, and Daniel's pretty upset by this. He even calls the police, and Mike negotiates with Nacho to give Daniel back his baseball cards and his $10,000, and he also kind of like puts it out there. If Tuco and them find out what you've been doing, they'll kill you. And Nacho decides to go ahead and return those items as long as Daniel turns over this disgusting Hummer, and Nacho decides to take it to the chop shop and have the car destroyed. So that's kind of like where we see Nacho in season 2, excuse me. In season 3, this is when things start to, build on that climatic end that we see Nacho, right? And Nacho helps, Mike helps Gustavo set up the Salamancas when one of his shipments is interrupted at the border. Mike, from far away, shoots at one of the trucks. He shoots a gun, knocks, and spreads cocaine all over the vehicle. And then as it's trying to cross the border, they're stopped, it's seized, the gentlemen are arrested, and Hector has to then reach out to Gustavo to have his shipments then placed on Gustavo's trucks, which was Gustavo's plan all along. Hector, however, doesn't like depending on Gustavo at all. So he goes to Nacho and Nacho's father, and Nacho's father is a mechanic and has his own business. And Hector basically tells Nacho and Nacho's father, we might have to use this as a front for our operation. And Nacho's father is not a criminal. He's a very straight-laced man. He's a hardworking, man who, lives by the book. He basically tells Hector, to get out of here. He's not doing it under no circumstances. And Nacho walks Hector outside, and during a conversation with Hector outside, Hector informs Nacho that your father might have to have a mistake or an accident. And that, starts to obviously scare Nacho. Nacho and his father don't see eye to eye on, the type of work Nacho's involved in, but he really respects and loves his father, and he will do anything at all costs to make sure his father is protected. And so all of this kind of, gets out of hand, and Nacho's trying to figure out what he's going to do. And Hector has heart ailments, and he takes heart medication. Nacho makes the decision that he is going to switch out his pills. He reaches out to Daniel again, because he works at the pharmaceutical company, and says, I need this type of pill, but they all need to be fake. And Daniel's able to get those pills for him. And in this intense moment, Nacho switches out the pills. And during an intense argument with Gustavo, Hector is very upset, that the Salamancas actually are going to kind of lean on Gustavo permanently for these shipments. Hector starts, having, difficulty breathing and chest pains. And then he takes one of his pills, and in that moment, he falls to the ground. He's taking these fake pills. And that's how season 3 ends. And then we pick up in season 4. Nacho has caused a stroke, and Gustavo pieces these events together. He realizes that it's Nacho who had switched these pills out. Gustavo then blackmails Nacho and says, if you don't become a spy for me with the Salamancas, I will kill you and your father, and I will also tell them what you have done. And also in that moment, one of Nacho's partner, Gustavo kills him, and in that moment, and he also shoots Nacho in the stomach to make it look real. And so that's kind of how that season 4 is. He is trying to play both sides, gain information from the Salamancas to give to Gustavo, trying to keep his father safe, and just barely trying to stay above all of this. And in season 5, he is working as the head of this specific operation for the cartel in Albuquerque, under Lalo Salamanca, Hector's nephew. Nacho is still being blackmailed by Gustavo and threatened to expose him and kill his father. Gustavo tells Nacho to get close with Lalo Salamanca and gain his trust. Nacho is able to do that after one of their stash houses was raided, and Nacho managed to sneak into the snatch house as the police were arriving and able to save a lot of the money and cash. And Lalo, actually tells him, he's like, you're crazy, man. And from that moment on, Lalo starts to trust him and respect him. And Nacho gets in good with Lalo. So he's able to get that intel that Gustavo needs. And then Nacho goes to Mexico with Lalo Salamanca, right? And Gustavo is planning on killing Lalo that evening. Nacho escapes and leaves the gate open. His job is to set Lalo Salamanca up, to let the Gustavo's killers come in and to kill him. And he leaves. He gives him an excuse because Lalo is not going to bed. They're both sitting outside, and he was like, "Oh, I'll go get us some tequila." And on the way to get the tequila, Nacho leaves, and he leaves the gate open so those guys can enter. And during this, everything goes horribly wrong for Nacho and for Gustavo and everyone involved, because Lalo is able to get the upper hand on these guys, and he escapes with his life. So that is where the end of season 5 ended. Nacho is now been on the run. We see him, through the first 2 episodes on the run, get to this safe house, and here in episode 3, the Salamancas have caught up to him, and you start to get that feeling like Gustavo, even at the end of episode 2, had threatened Nacho that if he doesn't turn himself in, that he was going to have to go visit his father, and Mike was adamantly against this. Gustavo makes a deal with Nacho, and Nacho says that he will turn himself over as long as they keep his father safe, and Mike promises that nothing bad will come of his father. So Nacho then goes and surrenders, and during this conversation with Mike, he finds out that he was going to die the next day. And they set up this whole ruse that they want Nacho to grab the gun, kill the head of the Salamancas, and then in turn be shot and killed himself. But Nacho, in this episode 3 here of season 6, Nacho goes along with the plan so far. He grabs the lead Salamanca, the Don there. But during that moment, he tells Hector, "You're in that chair because of me." He reveals it all. "You're like that because of me, because I hate you." And he's not going to give them the satisfaction to torture him, to get the information out of him that, Gustavo wanted him to give them. Because in a very powerful but intense and almost jarring moment, after Nacho gets this powerful speech, he shoots himself in the head and goes out on his own terms. We know that in the beginning, Nacho was this rough guy, but Nacho was easily my favorite character on this show. In season 1, we see him, go from this type of guy that was bullying others and trying to get over, and it was all about his next hustle. How was he going to make that money? And a lot of his own greed and ambition is what got him to this place, right? Because he wasn't willing to leave that life, but he also wasn't willing to let Hector Salamanca threaten his father as well. And he, and leaving the cartel, how does one do that? And he knew that coming back was his only option, because he knew that his father wasn't going to run off with him. So the only option Nacho had in this episode was to return, because if his father wasn't going to run with him, he knew that he had to come back and turn himself in, because his father wouldn't be safe if he didn't return. Michael Mando gives a powerful performance in this episode. You see the desperation. You see him running. You see him hiding in these, in this oil tanker. You feel the exhaustion and just and the sheer will of just all of these things happening all at once, and worrying about the safety of his father. How can he be one step ahead of them in the next moment? And then you even see that in the first episode, him escaping, through Mexico, in the desert, getting to this hotel, and then encasing that situation out and discovering that someone there is following him. Michael Mando played this intense, paranoid, on the edge of your seat character who you could feel that the end was coming very, very soon. And Nacho was my favorite new character. I love Mike. He still has a big place in my heart, but I'm telling you, Nacho is absolutely fabulous. I love Michael Mando here. He puts on such a wonderful performance as Nacho. Like I said, I really, really wanted him to have that moment where he was able to escape and get away. But sadly, you know, I could tell in the course of the events of the story that was not going to be the case for his character. Nacho is gone now, and we see, and it was good to see be introduced to this character in this prequel and to see what happens to him, because we obviously know he's not in Breaking Bad, even though he did get that mention. That's how the character was invented, when Walt and Jesse kidnapped Saul, and he says he actually drops his Nacho, and from there they developed this amazing character. Michael Mando has done a fabulous job on this show. He's going to be greatly missed. The only thing that I could wish is that I wish that he was, you know, in the second half of the season. But I understood that this was the events took place in the season finale, and they gave you that sense of urgency with Nacho. Something was going to happen, and unfortunately, Nacho is gone. But again, I absolutely adore this character. He is my favorite character on this show outside of Saul Goodman and Mike. So let me know down below your thoughts and your opinions here. What did you think of Michael Mando and Better Call Saul? What did you think of episode 3? I absolutely adored it. Episode 4 review is dropping very, very, very soon, and 5 and 6. I have seen all of the episodes. I'm just not caught up on dropping the reviews. I hope everyone is happy and healthy. Until next time, I'm going to be up out of here. Bye.